This is a fun event, and I want to say, Todd and Tom and all y'all. That's what we say in Texas. We say all y'all. It can also be possessive. All y'all's, like all y'all's presence here is a blessing to us. Thank you all. I appreciate that. But you have created something really unique with this event. This is a fun event. And your openness to doing this year after year and stewarding it so carefully, you and your whole team, thank you. I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. What a fun group. Thank you for coming to Houston. I wish that you could all come to my house for dinner. All 950 of you, but my wife said no. And so let me tell you a little bit about Houston for just a moment. You are sitting right now on the ancestral lands of the Karankawa Indians, which are colloquially known oftentimes as the Kronk. And these Native Americans lived here for centuries and centuries. They cultivated all kinds of crops. They loved to hunt and fish. They were phenomenal hunters and fishers. They were tattooed. They had all kinds of tattoos all over them. They loved dogs as pets. They had dogs as pets all over the place. They were very friendly, very hospitable people that lived here. And in fact, the very first European that ever stepped foot in Texas was Cabeza de Vaca, which is an unfortunate name that means head of cow. So head of cow got shipwrecked off of Galveston Island a long time ago. He and his 80 men, and they swam ashore, and they were cared for by the Karankawa Indians, as was often the case in those days long ago. And time passed by, and more people came, and the skirmishes began, and the territorial disputes, and the trespassing, and the fighting, and so forth. And so by 1850, the Karankawa were completely exterminated. They were gone. And we only know 100 of their words still. And it's because there was a missionary's daughter who lived with them and fell in love with them, and she wrote in her journal a bunch of these things. So we have some of this information. And so I always start off by just giving thanks to the people who cared for this land long before our ancestors, my ancestors from Europe, ever arrived in this place. Houston today is the fourth largest city in the United States. There are roughly 6 million people living in the greater Houston area. And as you've probably noticed if you've driven around, we didn't build up, we build out. It's a very widespread area. You can fit most major cities inside Houston city limits when it comes down to it. And it's also the most diverse city in the United States. Houston is about 38% Anglo, 47% Latino. And so in the next couple of years, that balance is going to tip even more. Significant Asian population. We have 2 Chinatowns here, and it's really kind of a blessing. We've bumped into each other. We've learned to live together in a way that has really been a blessing to Houston. A big center for immigration, which has been incredibly good for the economy here in Houston. The economy in Houston is really about a number of things. I'm going to just highlight 3 of them. And the theme for this event is finding forward. My theme on Sunday is exploring forward. Houstonites have kind of been about exploring space. There's the Houston Space Center and NASA located here. Oil and gas exploration is a big deal here as well, too, as you probably know. And one thing you might not know, medical exploration as well, too. The Houston Medical Center, there are 1 million people that live in the Houston Medical Center, and MD Anderson is their goal is to make cancer history. And people fly in from all over the world to come here to MD Anderson. And so finally, let me just tell you a little bit about the Synod. The Texas-Louisiana Gulf Coast Synod is the lower half of Louisiana all the way to New Orleans, and a portion of Texas that's about that size as well to Houston. We go all the way from New Orleans 7 hours over to LaGrange, Texas, from Lufkin up north all the way down to Bay City, Texas as well too. And when we have this youth gathering here in 2018, it will be the third time in 10 years that we have had the ELCA youth gathering in our synod, because it was twice in New Orleans and then in Detroit, and then it's going to be in Houston as well too. And I just got to tell you, it's a blessing to us. New Orleans felt the love of the Lutherans in their orange shirts coming around. And I remember them saying, "Who are those convicts?" It is really a blessing to have you here. Our synod is about 112 congregations. It's not the smallest synod, it's not the largest synod, kind of in between. We have a number of campus ministries with some phenomenal campus ministers, some of whom are here with us today. We've got Camp Luther Hill, just like probably many of your synods. Our camps are really a key asset for faith formation in our synod. And a retreat center on Galveston Island. Our mission as a synod, our hope, do this with me, is to be Christ-centered, if you will. Let's make the sign of the cross. Christ-centered, outwardly focused congregations passing the faith to the next generation. We want to be a network of Christ-centered, outwardly focused congregations passing the faith to the next generation. And so we have really focused a lot on leadership. We created an organization called LEAD. You probably know Peggy Hunn, who is the leader of that organization. And then also Beth Hartfield, who works with her, and Chris Hicks and Darcy Mittelstadt from our synod as well. David Hansen, who led the workshop on ministry and technology. Rosella White, who led the workshop on coaching. And Janelle Rosa Cooper, who led the workshop on children's ministries, and many others that you'll bump into here that are volunteering, helping, doing all kinds of things. So we are glad that you're here. I hope that this event is a blessing to you. I hope that you find your spirit renewed and your joy for ministry recharged. Thanks for coming here and being with us, and have a great time.